Okay. All right. So like I said, week 4, systems, a team. We're going to talk about analyzing and revise, and in that will be kind of the plan. I will, as I was saying, I will, in the slides, I'll go through week 1, 2, 3, and 4 homework, which kind of encapsulates the plan, because each of those steps are in the plan. And I'll just remind you there is a workbook up there. So if you want to get that and fill that in, that will help with the homework. It's kind of got the templates for each component of the homework. And then we'll talk about next steps. And if I get my cursor, we will go. All right. So here's the review of the homework for last week. So it was set a goal for how many people you'll talk to a week. Choose a database if you don't already have one. Populate that database if you haven't done that already. Create an autoresponder email campaign with at least 5 emails. Send an email to your list. Practice the sales techniques that we talked about. Review your revenue forecast. All right, so let's talk. This is what we're going to talk about. When I talk about systems, this is what I'm talking about. So we'll go through each one of these in a little bit of detail, but it's your domain and your website, merchant services, which is how you take cash, page generation software, course creation, and you may or may not have all of these things, but I'll talk about each one of them. Webinar resources. All right, so sorry about that. So, all right, so these are the things we're going to talk about. Website, merchant services, page generation, course creation, webinar services, audio video resources, WordPress, data, which is for your website. We're going to talk about a little bit about entities and incorporation. We're going to talk about creating a business bank account. We're going to talk about social media, your CRM or your database. And we're going to talk about QuickBooks. We're going to talk about phone apps and many, many more. So these are kind of the basic systems that people have in their companies, and so we're going to talk about each one of those. So let's start with your domain or your website. I'm assuming everybody has a domain or has a website, but that's not necessarily the case that you need one, but it's a really nice thing to have. Some people get their website from a company they might work for, so they might have a free website that comes with it, but it's important to have. It's a great place to send your prospects to so they can learn more about you. It gives great credibility. So if having a website and being able to go there and find out more about you shows great credibility. It should typically be a .com. Those are the most common or frequently seen. Sometimes there may be an instance where you don't use a .com, but for the most part, use a .com. It's a great place to market your products online. It's a great place to have your opt-in, your free opt-in on a landing page. Make it a name that's easy to remember. And make it descriptive for search engine optimization. I'll give you an example of that. So way back in the day, the first time I tried to do any kind of online marketing, I was trying to learn how to do online marketing. So I created this online store called the Dog Bandana Store, and I sold dog bandanas. And let me tell you, I sold a lot of dog bandanas, so much that I actually had to sell the website because I didn't have time to make all these dog bandanas. But the interesting thing was, way back in the day, when someone was looking for a dog bandana, they'd search dog bandana. And because the name Dog Bandana Store, Dog Bandana was in the name, I was always at the first page of Google. I was always in the first couple. Now today that doesn't necessarily work out as well because people like Amazon and Petco and some of these big companies have kind of changed the world and the landscape. But it's good to have a domain name that's descriptive so people understand what it is. And then, like I said, a website is a great place to send people to for your landing pages so they can opt in and you can grab their email address, which we talked a lot about last week. If you don't have a website and you're not ready for that, start with a Facebook page. I've seen a lot of people that I've coached over the years who have done great in the interim before they actually have go to the expense of a website, have started with a Facebook page and have been able to grow their list and grow their presence just with a Facebook page. So if you, for some reason you can't go there yet, that's a great place to start. And then merchant services, you're going to need a way to take money. So as we go through this, if you see it's bolded on the screen, that means that's what I use. Not that that matters, but I always get asked, what do you use? So I figured in all of these slides, you'd know which one I was using just by the fact that it's bolded. So you're going to need a way to take money. PayPal, One Shopping Cart, Costco Merchant Services, there's a gazillion of them out there, but just know you absolutely need a way to make money. I also use a way to swipe someone's card on my phone or on a tablet, and I happen to use Square, but Stripe and Square and PayPal are three of the biggest ones if you want to be able to be out and about and be able to take cash on your phone or on your tablet. Some considerations to keep in mind as you're looking for merchant services. You're going to want to look at ones that are the most flexible, that work for you. Obviously, you want to look at cost because they charge you. Sometimes they charge you a monthly fee, a per transaction, a percentage. So look at the fees. How easy is it to use? How does it integrate with the other things that you use? Does it integrate with your QuickBooks or any other programs that you might be using? The payout schedule is something that people don't necessarily think about, but it's important to how often do they pay you? How quickly do you get the money? Because you want to get the money as quickly as possible. Then you want to look at reporting, how do they report out the money that's coming in. You also want to look at security, and you want to know that they've got good customer service in case anything were to go wrong. Page generation software. I use page generation software. I have a developer who works on my website, but I usually create my own pages. So I happen to use Optimize Press, but Lead Pages is another one, ClickFunnels, Instapage, Unbounce. I've never used Instapage or Unbounce, but I have used Lead Pages, and I've seen a lot of ClickFunnels. I happen to use Optimize Press because I find it the easiest to use. It was recommended to me way back in the day. So if you're looking to create pages on a website, these are some easy ways to do it. You're going to want to look at cost. I started out with Lead Pages, but Lead Pages charges by the month, and I can't stand places that charge by the month. I'd rather pay a one-time fee. So that's one of the reasons I went with Optimize Press. But you're going to maybe want to look at a page generation software. So those are some good places to look if that's something that you think you need in your business. Course creation is another one. There's a number of companies out there that do course creation, help you create courses. I have used WP Courseware, that's where I started, but then I went to LearnDash. So there's a number of other companies out there. So if you want to create courses, and I know Fonda Joe, you at one time had talked about maybe creating some courses. There's some great software out there that helps you create those courses and get your information in your videos and all of the other components of your courses into a structure that works really well, that allows you to do things like determine how they move through. Do they have to create finish module 1 before they can go to module 2? You can put, like I said, quizzes and different things in there. You can give them certificates for completion. So there's a lot of different cool things you can do around creating courses. LearnDash is the one that I use. It is a WordPress plugin. So WordPress is it's a way to create websites. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And so LearnDash works really well with that. It also integrates with PayPal and my ability to get paid. So if you are looking at creating courses, there are some examples. I also looked at Sensei. That was a close second when I was looking at LearnDash. But anyway, so those are some examples of course creation software. So webinar and conference call services. So if you want to do webinars and you want to make them available to your list, or you want to start promoting them via social media or anywhere online, webinar software is a great thing to have. I happen to use EverWebinar because my current strategy is to have webinars that look like they're live, but they're not live. And so that was the best choice for me. But I'm sure anybody who's been on a webinar have seen GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar. So if you're looking at doing some webinars, these are some of the software products that you might consider. And then conference calls. We all do conference calls. I happen to use a free conference call if it's just a phone call. I use Skype extensively. I mean, I've coached people in 16 different countries, so I use Skype in order to deliver coaching. And then, of course, now we're all Zoom crazy, so Zoom is another way. So those are some software for conference calls and webinars. So audio and video editing resources. So because I have a podcast, I do a lot more of this than I ever did before I had a podcast. But I have done video editing for quite a while. So when it comes to audio editing, I use Audacity. It's free and it's fairly easy to use. If you've got a Mac, Apple GarageBand is also free. It is a good, it's a good alternative. Probably the best if you want a lot of really fancy and extra features would be Adobe Audition. It's a paid for. With what I do with my podcasts and whatnot, Audacity works fine for me. I don't need any, fancy dancy things. Camtasia I've used for years to edit my videos, it's really great. It used to be Mac only, now it's Mac and PC. I think it's $100, maybe a year, but that's a great way to edit your videos. I understand iMovie is really good as well. That's a free product that comes on a Mac, but as you if you do decide start doing more videos, these are some software products that you could use to edit those. And then WordPress. So WordPress is the de facto standard for websites. It's easy and it's fast to create websites on WordPress. There are lots of developers available that can help you or create them for you. There are free, so there's a concept of a theme. So a theme is the look and feel of a website. And you can buy different or find, because there's free and paid for different themes that will dictate how the layout and how your website will look. And so there's free, and then there's also paid for themes. There's a concept of plugins. So plugins are little software products that you can add to your website that do certain functions. And the example that I'll use of that is LearnDash is a plugin that you add to your website that allows you to create courses and deliver them. So WordPress has a lot of different types of plugins that will help you develop and create functionality or add functionality to your website very easily. And then I was kind of switch gears a little bit to go from like the systems, which are software and things like that, to entities and incorporating. So if you've got a business and you're running your business as a business, you need to incorporate. There's just no doubt about it. One, there is a lot of tax strategies that come along with incorporating. And when I say incorporating, I don't mean, I specifically do not mean a sole proprietor. So a sole proprietor is, there will be accountants out there that say you're fine as a sole proprietor, but it's not necessarily true. The difference between a sole proprietor means I don't have an EIN number, and even though I've got a business, everything floats down to me from a risk perspective and from a liability perspective. So if you are a sole prop, we can talk about it in more depth, but you should seriously consider incorporating. Most of us are LLCs taxed as an S, is what it's considered. There are a lot more deductions available for an S Corp than there are for a sole proprietor. And the biggest part of becoming a sole proprietor, becoming an S Corp versus a sole proprietor, let's say someone were to sue you. And the courts will bear this out, because I've studied the court cases. If someone were to sue you and you're a sole proprietor, the courts they'll treat you as an individual, not a corporation. And they have this concept that's called piercing the corporate veil, which means the courts will not treat you as a corporation. So instead of someone suing your corporation where they can't get to you, they'll pierce the veil and they'll get to you as opposed to your corporation. And if anyone were to sue you, you only want them to be able to sue your corporation. You do not want them to be able to get to your assets. So it's important for liability and risk, but there's also a lot more tax deductions that you can get as an S Corp or a C Corp than you can as a non-entity or a sole proprietor. These are 3 great books that talk about the deductions that you can take as a corporation. So Lower Your Taxes Big Time by Sandy Botkin, 475 Tax Deductions by B. Kameroff, and Ink and Grow Rich by C.W. Allen. So those are some great books if you want to learn more about the tax deductions you can take as a corporation. And then keeping more of what you earn. So here's how it works. And I'll try to be really broad, but here's how it works. If I work for a company and I make $100,000 a year, so Janet, her Social Security number makes $100,000 a year, then I get taxed on $100,000. So let's say let's say it's 40%. The income tax rate is, let's say, 40%. So I pay $40,000 in taxes. Now, if I am an entity and I make $100,000, my company makes $100,000, and my company has $30,000 in expenses, like all of these tax deductions that you can take as a corporation. So I have $30,000 in deductions, which means that my net income is $70,000, and I pay 40% on $70,000, which I don't know what the math of that is, but it's less than $40,000. So you pay taxes on the money that flows down from you after your company pays all of its expenses. So you definitely want to incorporate just from the standpoint of keeping more of what you earn. Because most of us, not all of us, but most of us are in California. You also need to know that California has this lovely thing of charging you a minimum of $800 per year for the luxury of incorporated in the state of California. So you'll pay that regardless of whether you make any money at all. And I think you've got to make, over $200,000 or $300,000 before it goes up from $800. But just know, just to be incorporated in the state of California, you'll pay $800 in taxes. And then everyone needs to have a business bank account. You absolutely want to keep your business expenses separate from your personal expenses. You want to have a business credit card that you use for all your business expenses so that you never commingle your funds. You never want to commingle your personal funds with your business funds. And then use accounting software like QuickBooks, which we'll talk about in a minute. Use accounting software to keep track of all of your separate accounts and all of your separate expenses. your tax person will really thank you if you use something like QuickBooks. And then everyone needs a social media presence, so we all know that. These are the ones I'm more active in: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. But we all need we all need social media presence. Figure out which social media platform your people are on. So for me, my people are business people, and so I tend to focus more on LinkedIn. If I was looking for individuals, I might be looking more on Facebook or on Instagram. So if I was selling things that were like jewelry or something that were more visual and tactile, I might spend more time on Pinterest. So just know where your people are, and then obviously we spend time on social media. And then everybody needs a database. We talked about this a little bit last week, but I need to talk about it as we talk about systems. These are a number of different ones out there. MailChimp is what I use. Like I said, we talked a lot about CRMs and databases last week, so I won't go into it here in any great depth, but you do need some kind of a database, so make sure that you've got that. And then QuickBooks. You need to have some kind of accounting software. I don't know how you could possibly run a business without accounting software. QuickBooks is the de facto standard. There are a lot of QuickBooks certified bookkeepers and people who understand QuickBooks. So if you ever wanted to hire it out, there's a ton of people out there that you could hire. It's easy to use. You need to track your business, so you need some kind of software. I've had clients in the past who said, I just use spreadsheets, and I'm like, then you may be a master of spreadsheets, but it's really hard to track your business just by using spreadsheets. And then build your team. I always get this question, who do I hire first? Because people are always looking at ways to maximize their time and the benefit of how they spend that time. And it's always a good idea to hire out the things that you shouldn't be doing. And so people always ask me, well, who should I hire first? So I have this, what I call hire first exercise. And so what I ask you to do is get out a piece of paper and then write down all of the things that you do. The things that you do during the day, during your week. I personally would suggest you write down all of the things that you do both in your business and personally. So you get a piece of paper with all these things written down on it. And then you, at the top, you make a second column and you write things I like to do. And then at the top of the third column, you write things I'm good at. And then you go and you check the things you like to do and the things you're good at. And you'll find that there's a group of things that don't have any check marks. And those are the things that you would hire first. So I remember way back in the day, I had a coach, one of my first coaches, and he had me go through this exercise. And it was just so freeing for me because I'm not a detailed person and I don't like that kind of stuff. And so what I found, the things that I don't like to do and I'm not good at are things like QuickBooks and, keeping track of those types of things, those detailed reporting things. But I did it because I thought, well, I'm smart enough to do it. Why shouldn't I do it? And it was only then that I really got that me spending my time doing things like that is not a good use of my time. I can easily hire somebody for a small amount of money to go do the things I'm not good at, and I can free myself up to do the things that I really need to do. And for me, it was just understanding that it was okay to let those things go and okay to hire and know exactly who to hire first. I'd also suggest you might start with home help. So whether it's laundry, house cleaning, errands, landscaping, childcare, shopping, look at those things that you can hire people to do that will help you with things that you don't like to do around the house. And I will submit to you that you can most likely find people to hire fairly inexpensively. But I always get this objection. I'm not making any money. I'm not making enough money to hire people out. So when I hear that, I always challenge people, that's what I do as a coach, to hire out just hire out 4 hours a week. So I'll send them back to the like to good at exercise, that they identify the things they should hire out first, and go and hire out just 4 hours a week. Typically you can do that for less than $50 easily, but I'll use $50 as an example. So if I'm paying somebody $200 a week to do whatever that frees me up for 4 hours a week, and I focus on revenue generating activities, I should be able to make more than $200. And so you'll quickly see, if you were actually to go through that process, that freeing up 4 hours a week to really focus on your marketing plan and execute on that marketing plan will way more than pay for the amount of money that you've hired out. So it's all about using. That doesn't mean you get those 4 hours to go, sit on the couch and watch, TV and eat bonbons. It means marketing, 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 marketing. However, I would submit to you, if you spent 4 extra hours a week focusing on your marketing, you'd make more than you're spending on hiring those people. And so I would submit to you, you can't afford not to do it, just because it'll get you focused on the revenue producing activities that you should be doing. And Team is actually really affordable. I don't know if any of you have used Fiverr or Upwork. I use Fiverr all the time. In fact, the developer that I have who maintains my website, I actually found him on Fiverr. But I've used Fiverr, I've used Upwork, I've used 99 Designs to do logo designs and do some graphical things. But there's Freelancer. I've never heard of Guru. I've heard of Tackle. But I wanted to update the information. And so when I did some research a couple of days ago, Guru came up. I had never heard of it or used it. I have heard of Tackle, but Team is affordable. The other thing, which I should add to this slide, oftentimes you can hire teenagers or younger people to do some technology stuff that some of us aren't as good at as they are. You can hire younger, kids to do data entry, to lick envelopes, to do some of those menial tasks. The other thing, in some instances, you can go to your local community college and find interns that you can get for free that can help you in your business. So there's a lot of ways you can find people to help you. Hiring a virtual assistant. So a virtual assistant can do a number of different things. They can do scheduling for you, so they can get on the phone and schedule your calls, get your calendar full. They can schedule appointments for you. They can do some marketing for you. They can follow up for you. They can do scripted phone calls, so you can give them a script of someone to follow up with, and they can they can utilize that script in order to do phone calls for you. They can find speaking engagements for you. They can do data entry. They can do pretty much any task that you shouldn't be doing, you can hire somebody to do. And have some accountability. I'm all about accountability. I think it's so important. I think so many of us are in this alone, and they don't really have people that hold them accountable. So I would say find an accountability partner. Find somebody that you can talk to and you can say, this week I'm going to do this. And I personally think you should talk to an accountability partner at least once a week. So have somebody where you say, this is what I'm focused on this week, and then re-rack around either at the end of the week or the beginning of the next week. How'd you do? It's really important to have somebody that you can call on those days that you just don't feel like doing it. At least that happens to me. And Jim Kaspari is my guy. I can't tell you how many times I'll call him up and I'll be like, Jim, I'm just struggling with this. And he does the same for me. He'll call and he'll say, I just did this big proposal And they said no. And I was really counting on them saying, yes, I get that. Like, so let's talk about that. That's not a no, it's a not now. And so having somebody that you can really talk to. And it's really great to have someone when you have the big wins. Like you call, like, hey, I just landed a new client, or hey, I just figured this thing out. So having somebody or multiple people that you can rely on is so important. So just know you're not in it alone. Having a mastermind group, I have a couple of these that I still participate in. So a mastermind group, and the idea behind a mastermind is a group of people. Typically it's under 10. 5 to 6 people is probably an optimal amount, and the idea of the mastermind is multiple minds together formulate a larger mind, a mastermind. And so a mastermind group is where you come and you exchange ideas and you support each other. It's a little bit more formal than an accountability partner, but it's a great thing to have. I have a mastermind group which started out, I forget how many people were in it, because now it's down to 2. But I've been working with this woman, Teresa. In fact, I have a call with her today. We talk twice a month, mostly, and it's been going on for, I'd say, 7 or 8 years. And so mastermind groups are great to have. Weekly accountability, like I said, I like to have every week I'm accountable for what I do, and someone cares, someone knows about it, I'm open about it, and if I'm not making progress, then we talk about it, and how do you break through those stuck times or the challenges that you're having. You're not alone, and I can't say that enough. You're not alone. It keeps you engaged, it keeps you moving, and it keeps you committed, because there's nothing like knowing that you've got a mastermind call or you've got an accountability call and you're like, I haven't done anything this week, I got to do something before our next call. So just be committed, and like I said, you're not in this alone. We're all in it together, so find people that you can be engaged with. And then tracking your leads and sales conversion. So we're talking about systems. We're talking about the things that help us run our business. And tracking your leads and your sales conversions is such a critical part, because first of all, if you're not getting any leads, you know you need to focus more on marketing. If you're getting a whole bunch of leads and they're not converting, then you really need to look at it. So tracking that. The first place to start on that tracking is going and looking at your revenue model, right? So we put together a revenue model of how many sales am I going to make of each product this month. I want to look at that and see how I'm tracking towards the goal that I set forth. So that's the first place to start. Second stage is if you're not, well, 2 things. If you're not making the goals that you want to make, then go back to marketing. Because if you're not making the revenue that you need, then most likely you're not getting the leads that you need. So you need to go back to your marketing plan. The other thing, because we don't need to always talk about like not making the revenue model, but now I'm killing it, right? I'm killing my revenue model. I want to go back and figure out what's working. Like I'm selling a whole bunch of these. What am I doing there so I can put my foot on the pedal, on the gas pedal, to do more of that? So it's not just to go back and say, what am I not doing, but it's to put the pedal to the metal of the things that are really working well. Always revise and tweak things before eliminating them, especially when it comes to like your marketing plan. I have a lot of clients who have said, well, it's not working, so I'm not going to do it anymore. Well, before you eliminate it, analyze why it's not working, because there may be some things that you can tweak that will get it moving before you eliminate it completely. And the other thing I'll just say, because I have had some less than stellar committed clients in the past. When you've had 1,000 clients, you're going to have some that aren't quite as committed. Not doing the marketing is not a good reason to stop marketing. So if say I'm going to do Facebook ads and I do one Facebook ad and I didn't get anywhere and I don't do anything else, don't say Facebook ads don't work, right? If I'm going to networking events and I'm really not talking to anybody, or I'm not gauging, or if I do engage, I'm not taking it to the next step of saying, you're interested, let's have another follow-up conversation, let's talk next Tuesday at 2. If you're not doing those things, that's not a reason to say those aren't working. So before you eliminate, really figure out what's going on and make sure that it makes smart sense to eliminate it if you're going to. And like I said, test. Figure out what's working, figure out what's not. Really take a hard look at what you're doing and how it's working before you change it. And lead tracking, marketing revision needs to be done monthly. It's not something you can do once every 6 months. If you're spending money and time in marketing, which you absolutely have to if you're gonna grow a business, first you have to have it written down. We talked a lot about that last week, but you have to do it monthly. You've got to look at your leads, your conversions every month to figure out what's working and what's not. Otherwise, it's really hard to change. It's really hard to spin the dials. And then track by campaign. So last week we talked a lot about setting up your database and setting up different campaigns, maybe setting apart different lists. So you're going to build multiple campaigns. Well, you should track by campaign. You should look at a monthly review of the effectiveness of each of your campaigns. You should adjust once again before you eliminate, and you should track the monthly results. So tracking your marketing by the campaigns that you do is another really important thing. And then stop, start, continue. So I'm a big fan of analyze and revise, analyze and revise. And part of the revising part is stop, start, continue. So what should you start doing that you're not doing? What should you stop doing that you are currently doing? And what things should you continue to do? So every month you should be looking at what are the activities that I'm doing, how are they working for me, how are they tracking to my goals, and then what do I need to add, what do I need to stop, and what do I need to continue doing. Have a 120-day plan if that works for you. I don't do a 120-day plan. I have an annual plan, and then I track, monthly what I'm going to do. But if it's a 30-day plan, a 60-day plan, a 120-day plan, whatever works for you, have a little bit of a longer-term plan. I typically do an annual plan, and then I break it down by quarter. And so I kind of look at what am I want to focus on in quarter 1 and quarter 2 and quarter 3. So next week I usually do it the first Monday of the month. And so that'll be the first Monday of the third quarter. So I'll go look at my monthly goals, and then I'll start looking at my quarterly goals. How did I do the last quarter? Which for me, most of that stuff got thrown out of the window when coronavirus came knocking on our door. So I don't know what's going to happen when I actually sit down and try to analyze that. And I don't know how it's going to affect my goals for going forward because I haven't relooked at those. But I have to do it, especially in light of... Absolutely not. No kidding. But yeah, so we will look at redoing those as we forge forward in our new world. And then schedule a review meeting every month. The first of every month, I sit down and I review my goals for the month. I look at last month and I look at what I want to do this month. So schedule a review every month. And then revise your plan. So tweak your plan, find out what's working and what's not working. What's your number of leads? So how many leads are you getting? Review your revenue forecast. Update it with actuals, stop or add different marketing strategies. So once a month, once a quarter, and then annually, you should be revising all of your plans. And also look at, is it time to add products or services? Does that make sense? So homework review for week 1. So this is where you guys are going to be like, oh my God, but this all tracks to the plan, and it tracks to the workbook. So start out with your why. Setting your goals, determining what business you're in if you don't already have one, picking some model companies, determining your target market by demographics and interests, and then answer the 2 questions, what problem do I solve and how do I uniquely solve it? Work on your elevator speech. That was week 1. Week 2, we talked about creating and updating your product funnel, creating or updating your revenue forecast, creating or updating your marketing plan, posting to the Facebook group. Week 3, we talked about setting a goal for how many people you'll talk to. We focused on creating a database if you don't already have one, populating that database with your email addresses, create an email campaign with at least 5 emails, email that to your list, and practice the sales techniques and the elevator speech. Oh, and revisit your product forecast, your revenue forecast as it pertains to your sales. And then this week, it'll go. Document your system. So go through the list that I provided. It may not be an exhaustive list. You may have some things that I didn't have on there. But figure out what you have and what you need. Hire a team. Go through that exercise and see if there's some areas that you could hire. And then analyze and revise that plan. So what's next? So the Facebook page will be out there, so the replays will stay out there. Feel free to stay engaged in the Facebook group. You can email me or contact me or ask questions on the Facebook group. Complete your homework. If you want more, so my next step would be to offer you a group coaching program if that was something that you wanted to do as far as going forward. So I'll just talk a little bit about that. It starts out with a personal assessment to see where you are and where you might want to go. There are 2 content-driven calls every month with me. So you get 2 calls a month. There'd be a group call. 1 laser call, which is a Q&A call. So it would be a call where I would just come on, and anyone who had any questions can come on and just ask whatever questions they might have. We do a 1-to-1 private coaching call at the beginning to set your goals and create your plan. There's a private Facebook group, which is different from the one that we've got here. You have access to my resource list, so all the list of all the resources I have, you have access to. There is a home study course. So this is a really abridged version of my home study course. My home study course is what we've talked about as far as the steps, but it's much. I think there's like 8 hours of content, so it's expanded. So you get all of those modules. There's 3 modules, so you get that. You get the workbook, which is an expanded workbook than the one that you guys have access to. You get a copy of my book, and that is $97 a month. So if you guys are interested in staying engaged and going to that next level and working with me personally in a group coaching session, I'll offer that to you at $97 a month. And so that with that, are there any questions?